Hey guys, I'm Elizabeth McCravey, a website designer and business coach for entrepreneurs and your host for the Breakthrough Brand podcast, the show that's all about pulling back the curtain on how to actually build a successful business. I don't skim the surface around here. If you want a deep dive into the nitty-gritty details of what it takes to run a successful business and stand out in a crowd, you're in the right place. After creating a multiple six-figure-a-year website design business in my 20s, I'm ready to share everything I've learned and everything I'm still learning because I believe the keys to building a thriving business should never be a secret. Here you'll find episodes that are actionable, direct, and fun, like friends chatting business over coffee, and a fresh, honest take on the reality of being an entrepreneur. If you're ready to master online marketing, branding, website design, mindset, and business strategy, then this is the podcast for you. It's time to build your breakthrough brand. Let's do this. All right, guys, this is a fun episode that I've actually wanted to record for a while. I started outlining this one in my phone months and months ago when I kind of had the idea, and I just finished up the outline, and now here I am to talk about this with you. So I really like observing the influencer industry and seeing what can we learn for our own businesses from these men and women who are making their living through social media and blogging. So love them or hate them, there's really a lot we can learn from a business perspective. I personally really love all the bloggers I follow. I gain a lot from their content, whether it's like recipes or motherhood stuff or fashion links, travel tips, whatever it is. I really enjoy that type of content. So I'm coming at this from that perspective. But I also think from a business perspective, like, again, so much you can learn regardless of what you think about that whole industry. So once called bloggers, once upon a time, we really refer to these people now as influencers. The majority of the ones I'm going to be talking about, that I'm kind of looking at here, are women. And they're often sharing lifestyle content. Maybe it's about their family, fashion, beauty, fitness, cooking recipes, things like that. So much more. And it's really the idea of a shoppable life where they are sharing what they use in their everyday life, and telling you you can buy it. And in reality, these women are really multi-million-dollar business owners, and they just aren't necessarily talking about how much they make ever, like we often see in our online business industry, because it's not really what they're selling. They're selling, again, these products, and maybe it's their own products or affiliate products, whatever it is. And they're smart. They're smart businesswomen. They've built successful businesses just different than a lot of ours for most of you and myself listening. It's really cool when we think about it because they actually often don't even have a product or service they're selling like a traditional business would be. Instead, they're selling other people's stuff through a brand that is themselves, which is pretty cool, right? When we think about that, it's really the ultimate concept of the personal brand business. And my personal favorite place, a little tip here for marketing, but to get marketing ideas is not from people who are doing the same thing as me, but from people completely outside of my quote unquote business world. And some of my favorite marketing ideas ever have come from things like true crime podcast, or Whole Foods, 12 days of cheese promotion. That's a favorite little idea I got from that once. Or things like influencers. So seriously, looking outside of our industry is so helpful. And I get a lot of marketing ideas as I observe these women running their businesses and making significant livings for their families as personal brands. So in this episode, I just want to share some things to consider, things we can learn from influencers when it comes to marketing for our own brand, and things I've observed. And I hope this episode too challenges you to look at like different things in your life, whether it's commercials on TV, ads on the radio, a podcast you follow that's in the true crime genre, whatever it is, looking at different things like influencers and say like, what can I take away from this from my own business? Like what this thing is really cool they did, like how can I apply that? I think that's a really helpful question for us to be asking as business owners. And so that's basically what I've done here is I've asked that question about influencers, and I'm coming to you with some of the big takeaways that I think we can have about their businesses and apply it to our own, no matter what kind of business you have. I will say too, before I get into the tips, if you don't follow any influencers, some of these might be hard to connect with because you might be like, I don't really know what the list was talking about. I haven't really seen that done. But if you're like me and you have like a favorite go-to influencer for fashion or motherhood or health related or a recipe blogger you'd love to follow, whatever it is, you're going to be like, I totally get what you're saying here about these concepts. And again, hopefully you'll connect with this and start to observe even more. How can I apply that to my own business? That's really cool. That's really well done. How can I apply that? So here we go. Let me see. I think I have 5. Yep. I got 5 different things. So I'm just going to dive into the first one. I love this one. So the art of the subtle, gradual sell versus the hard sell. So influencers, it's almost laughable sometimes how good they are at this. They are the best of the best at this. They are frequently selling things. Again, this is how they are making their living. So really it's like multiple times a day, they are typically selling stuff on their Instagram stories or posts or whatever it is. Also worth noting, I'm mostly going to be talking about influencers in regard to how they do social media here, not blogging and things like that. But anyway, they're typically selling stuff all day long through affiliate links, through things like rewards, style, brand partnerships. But with a good influencer, at least you don't feel cringy, feeling like you're being sold to constantly. Even when it's an ad, it can feel really subtle, honest, and well done, and like something we want to listen to. We want to watch the whole story. We want to watch the reel. We want to read the caption, whatever it is. And that's what I mean by the art of like subtlety and gradual selling, and also knowing your audience and what they're going to connect with and how to best talk to them about whatever it is you're selling. So when we see ads from influencers a lot of the time, it doesn't feel like a commercial you mute on the TV or a podcast ass slot you press the 30-second forward button on. It's often something we truly want to watch. And it's, again, a lot of times it's an ad, it's an affiliate link, whatever it is. They're making money both ways. But the best sponsored content isn't the ones that feel like it's an ad. It's the one where it feels like your girlfriend just found this awesome Amazon gadget and she wants you to know about it. And that's what I mean, the art of the subtle sell. And I think influencers do this really well. And pay attention next time. You can kind of see what I mean. So maybe next time you're on social media and you're seeing this influencer doing like a hashtag ad partnership content, look at it and see like, okay, did you want to watch it or did you not? And why did you want to and why did you not want to? And you're going to be able to see what I mean here. Of the ones you often want to watch, they did something really well to make it engaging from the beginning. So to kind of take it back to our businesses, what can we incorporate into it from that? We sometimes think to sell our service or product, it needs to be a big ol' Instagram post every single time where we just lay it all out. I have a new course. Here's what it does. Here's who it's for. Here's the price. Doors close really soon. Buy it. And that's kind of like what we think marketing is. But the subtle sell that you see influencers do more often is more gradual. And when it's good, it's more you focused. And when I say you, I mean you as the consumer. So like, here's what it does for you. Here's why I think you'd like it. Here's why I think this would help you. Here's how it helped me. Here's what that could mean for you. Really less focused on like the what and more focused on the how and the why. So I would ask you, how can you sell your products and services more on social media subtly and also not so subtly, right? I think we also need that non-subtle sell sometimes and with no shame. I know so many of you guys, because you've told me you don't like selling and you don't really like marketing your stuff. You don't like to talk about it a lot. It makes you feel awkward and like a bit cringy. And talking about whatever it is you do does not have to be as big of an ordeal as we sometimes make it. It can be as simple as saying, hey, like here's what someone said about my course this week in our Facebook group. And here's why I think it would help you. If you're interested, here's the link. This is a product I'm really loving that I got on Instagram, or not Instagram, on Amazon a few weeks ago. And I use it this way in my business. Here's how it would also help you. So that's my first takeaway, the art of the subtle sell. And we can apply that again to so many different aspects of our business, but especially how we show up on things like Instagram when we talk about our own stuff. The second takeaway from social media influencers. So You don't have to share everything about your life. So even though a lot of these influencers, when we follow them, if you were to like observe their stories throughout a 24-hour period, it might look like they are sharing their entire life, like the entire day. Like, here's what I had for breakfast. Here's what my baby did. Here's the workout I did. Here's this product. And now here's me doing a try and haul, whatever it is. It's like, oh my gosh, it's a play-by-play of their entire day. But they're not actually sharing a play-by-play of their entire day. And when they are asked about it, they'll often tell you. I feel like it's a common thing to see influencers share, whether it's on social media or on a blog post or whatever it is, of like letting people know Instagram's not always reality and stuff like that. But from our viewer experience, it can sometimes look like it's literally everything. So one of my favorite bloggers to follow is Caitlin Covington. Her blog is called Southern Curls and Pearls. And I've heard her talk about this on Instagram, but then she has a blog post in particular where she talks about this, and I'm going to quote her. I will also link to the blog in the show notes if you want to read the whole thing. It was like a Q&A blog post from a while back. But she says, Instagram is truly a highlight reel of everyone's life. It is not real life. A person may choose to share the very best parts of their life, including me, but there is so much going on behind the scenes that you don't know about. I know that I personally only choose to share a fraction of my life with the public. There's so much going on and so much that I'm feeling that I don't ever share. Remind yourself of that next time you see someone's quote unquote perfect life on Instagram. So yeah, not sharing everything. And I want to ask the question now of like, how do we apply that to our own businesses? A few thoughts of how do we apply that. One, you don't have to share a play-by-play of your day. Share what your audience wants from you and what you want to share wherever those things align and merge. If you're curious of like, what does my audience want from me? I don't really know. Things like observing your story views and your post interactions, your story interactions, all of that is going to help you know what people want more and what they want less of. When you see significant, we post 10 stories in a row and there's like a huge drop off, that might imply that people want less of that. When you see people engaging through the whole thing, maybe they want more of that. So just know you don't have to share a play-by-play of the whole day. Another thing, even as a personal brand, you don't have to share it all. You don't have to share the hard personal struggle you're dealing with. You are still a business owner and you're ultimately selling something, and you have the right to a private life. And in fact, when you are building a personal brand, I really believe that having a private life is a key to making it work and not getting burnt out by it. I know that's been huge for me, of like, as I've built a personal brand, of not feeling the pressure to share everything as I'm going through it, or the pressure to share play-by-plays of my entire day, because one, a lot of that would be super not interesting, but also I don't want to be a friend and a spouse where like everything we do goes on Instagram after. Like, that's not the kind of life I want. And I'm sure you can relate. And again, these big time influencers will, like Caitlin, will tell you this, that like you can't be sharing it all and it stays sustainable. So just like relieve the pressure from yourself to share it all, and know that like even when it seems like people are, they're not. So you maybe even look at like observing that, like how could you share more without sharing it all? So let go of the pressure to share everything, share what matters to you, share what matters to your audience. And if you're wanting more like social media strategy episodes, I've done so many on this podcast. If you're new here, just scroll through the archives, the like 163 episodes before this one. You'll find so many that relate specifically to Instagram marketing, and social media in general. And there's a lot there that will help you. But one surefire way to know what works and what doesn't is just like to watch the engagement and views and like follow the data, so to speak, to really see what works there. So yeah, that's number 2. Number 3, I really like this one. You can pre-plan your Instagram content. You can record things in advance, and you can treat what you share more like an editorial content calendar if you want to. So often fashion bloggers, especially all the people, these influencers, they're treating their content like a magazine would an editorial calendar. So they might plan ahead that this day they're sharing a sponsored story for this brand. And then there's all these guidelines, like they can't share any competing products within this amount of time and things like that. So they're really planning that whole day of content around that sponsored piece. The next day, maybe they're sharing their favorite travel products. The next day is a group giveaway. Thursday is when a new blog goes out and they're going to share about that. Like they plan it out like that. Again, they sometimes will tell you this kind of stuff, when you follow them, but they make it feel more seamless typically than like sharing all of it. But they have a plan, and they're not just like typically waking up and being like, what am I going to share today? There's some kind of core content pieces that they're planning. And the top bloggers, I really do believe, are all planning their content this way. They should make it look super effortless. So how can you apply this to your own business? There's so many ways. One way that comes to mind for me is that you could pre-record things like your Instagram stories and batch create content for social media in general. If you make reels, you know that's a really popular strategy for reels creation of like changing out your shirt a few times, planning all the content, recording all the reels, and then sharing them over like a month or weeks or whatever it is. You can do the same thing with stuff like Instagram stories. And again, we see this with influencers a lot, where they might say something like, I'm on vacation this week and I recorded the stories you're about to see in a moment where I'm in my room doing a try on haul before I went out of town. That's because they strategically plan that content and they worked ahead to have that stuff ready to go before they went on vacation, and they planned exactly when they're going to share it. A lot of times for them too, with all the sponsored content, they have like a specific day that's like, we're sharing this campaign on this day, whatever it is. So you can batch. I also have a lesson on how I do this in my course, my own version of batching, where it's like you're planning out the content types, but not necessarily writing it until closer to time. So that's another strategy, but just letting it be something you plan in advance versus always being like, what am I going to share today? If you're someone like me where you don't necessarily like to get all the way ready every single day of the week, batching stories can be a really great thing. That's something I actually did during my maternity leave. A few different times they were like, okay, I know I want to talk about this thing on stories and this thing and that thing. I would get ready and record a few stories in a row, and then I would share them over the course of like a week. And that helped me to still show up on social media while taking significant time away to be with Colin when he was born. So it works really well. One example I want to share of this in action from a actually like mom influencer course creator, Carrie Lotscher. I think that's how you say her last name. I hope I'm saying that right. Yeah, she's an educator on like breastfeeding and early motherhood content. But she does this really in a cool way. And she's grown her social media following to be huge and very engaged, dedicated audience. But she actually plans entire days and weeks themed around different topics on her Instagram. So she might come on Monday and say like, this week we're talking about nursing strikes and weaning from breastfeeding. And then like that week, all of her story content and her reels and posts is all focused on that topic. And she's doing like Q&As about it, like all of that. And it's just all really cohesive. And it's like, okay, this week I'm going to go to her page. I know I'm going to learn about this topic that I want to learn about. It's really cool. And so you could do something like that in your business if you want to. If you really want to create like a community aspect on Instagram where people are coming to learn things, that's a great idea. And she's someone worth following to like see that in action. Because again, she does a really good job. I'll link to her stuff in the blog post for this as well if you want to check her out. So yeah, be okay with not posting in real time and with batching everything from stories to posts to reels and whatever else you want to batch. It's going to help you run your social media more like an organized business. All right, I got 2 more tips for you. So next one, something I've learned from influencers is the power of giveaways for engagement and growth within your business. So both group giveaways and solo giveaways. So if you are someone, like I said, if you follow influencers, you're going to be able to relate to everything I'm saying in this episode more. But if you do follow any influencers, you have probably seen them do things like a weekly giveaway where it's like comment and like on every post I did this week, or a monthly giveaway with that same concept where you like comment and you like, and then you're entering to win something where they're going to announce the winner at the end of the week and it changes every week, that sort of thing. Or group giveaways where they're saying, follow these 5 influencers who all have very similar audiences to them. And then maybe you're swiping the slider on stories or you're commenting on a post and again, entering to win something valuable. Maybe there's a new blog or collaboration going on and they're giving away a product where they're like collaborating with a brand and you comment on that post to enter. What I already kind of said of like the slider or voting on something on stories where it's just like slide this slider and be entered to win. There's so many variations of this. That's just a few, but I believe we see this popping up a lot with influencers for 2 reasons. 1, because it works. And 2, because they are also being hit with like lower engagement and lower reach, like all of us business owners are also being hit with. So they're doing these giveaways to increase engagement and get their story views up and their post views and all that up more. So I think that's why we're seeing them. But I also do feel like when you observe it, it seems like these work well. So what I would say for applying this to our businesses is that I would not recommend doing things like a PayPal cash giveaway or a Louis Vuitton purse or a coffee maker or a Barefoot Dreams blanket and things like that, that we see influencers giving away. You want to give away stuff that relates to your business, because of someone who's more of just like a lifestyle influencer, they're kind of talking to so many groups of people. Something like just a cash giveaway can make more sense, but we want to specifically attract people who are going to be interested in like our specific niche of stuff versus that they're like following you and commenting just so they can get like a cash or purse or whatever. So you want to be more focused in that. But I do think in our businesses, we can benefit a ton from giveaways, from group giveaways, from giving away a product you like that someone else makes, from giving away a product in your own business, giving away discounts, giving away a Starbucks gift card, like whatever it is, just to create engagement and community. And again, marketing ideas are everywhere if you look for them. And the influencers I follow are really great at marketing. And so I get to see a lot of this play out. And I personally have had some good giveaway ideas and moments of observing what works and what doesn't. And also what I'm willing to enter and not willing to enter from these influencer giveaways, of like, okay, they're asking me to do too much, I'm not going to enter this, versus like, what's the right balance of like asking enough to get engagement and not too much that people don't enter. So yeah, I think this is a good thing to try in your business, and do it strategically. Remember, I feel like that's a good emphasis of like, be strategic with it, know what outcome you want with any giveaway. And I would say it should be more than just getting some more likes or something like that. You need to be like really strategic with it. But observing influencers and looking at that power of giveaways for growing our business. Interrupting this episode with a suggestion for the small business owners listening. Ever wonder what you should do for healthcare when you and your spouse are both self-employed, so there's no work-provided health insurance to participate in? Well, when my husband Adam joined me in the entrepreneurial job space over 4 years ago, we joined Christian Healthcare Ministries instead of getting traditional health insurance. And it was the best decision for us, especially in these years of growing and raising a family while also running multiple businesses. CHM is a health cost-sharing ministry and is a faith-based alternative to health insurance. We did tons of research before choosing CHM, and if you know me and Adam, you know we are all about doing the math when making big or small financial decisions. And even though it's not insurance, CHM shares 100% of eligible medical bills, which is more than the typical 70 or 80% of medical bills paid for by insurance companies. All sharing is determined by the CHM guidelines, which you can check out before and after joining. And for the mamas and mamas to be listening, you truly cannot find a better healthcare option for maternity care. I had a vaginal delivery and a C-section and birth center care and hospital care between my 2 pregnancies and births, and it was all 100% shared for. And outside of birth, we've had our share of emergency room visits and procedures as a family, and those costs were all shared by members at Christian Healthcare Ministries, leaving us only paying our monthly contribution. CHM is less expensive month to month than insurance, and because there's no network, you can choose your care with whichever providers best fit your family. I seriously just cannot recommend Christian Healthcare Ministries enough. You've got to check them out. Go to elizabethmccravey.com/CHM for more information. Also putting that link in the show notes, elizabethmccravey.com/CHM. Now back to the episode. The final lesson and takeaway, getting people and like the power, I guess, the ability to, the interesting thing about this, but getting people to think of your brand when they see or hear about something else, another product, a place, like whatever it is, they think of you. So basically making something, whether it's a product, a place, whatever, part of your brand, even though it's not necessarily connected to your brand. And I can give an example here, but this looks a whole lot of different ways. One example I'll give to start, Danny Austin, she's an influencer. Again, I'll link to her. I've mentioned a few different people in this episode, but she's an influencer I've enjoyed following for years now. And she's really good at sharing a ton of behind the scenes content. She is someone who actually might be doing a play-by-play of her entire day on Instagram. I'm not sure, but it definitely feels that way with her at least. But one thing she did that was so cool a few years ago, and I just remember observing it and being like, wow, that's really neat how like she's made this association. But she found this like Amazon back massager gadget basically, and was using it, telling her audience like, this is awesome. Here's why I love it. Here's why you need it. You need to buy it. And literally was like selling out this product that's again, not hers. She does not have any partnership with this company, although she is making affiliate commissions probably through Amazon and reward style, but she didn't have any like association with this company, but she's selling out their product over here. And then people are associating this cool gadgety back massager with her. And she has people all over the world tagging her in videos of them in their stories being like, thanks, Danny, for this back massager. You have to get the Danny Austin back massager, things like that. And again, it's not her product and she didn't even have a relationship with that company, but she became known for that back massager thing and had people everywhere tagging her in it as they use the back massager and thanking her and associating with her. And it's like she made that part of her brand, so to speak. And that's really cool. It may be for you. You have no interest in a back massager being part of your brand. I totally get that. But like be creative and maybe think about like how could something like that apply to your own business? Another example that's a bit closer to home that you will probably recognize if you've ever followed Jenna Kutcher. She made mac and cheese a part of her brand early on simply by expressing it was one of her favorite foods. And I believe it was talked about on her blog and podcast and places like that of like, she's a mac and cheese lover. And so she has had people associating her with mac and cheese. And that's personal branding. It's real simple. Like, and both those examples might even sound kind of stupid, but how powerful is it for someone to associate your brand with something else in daily life, like a back massager, a cool Amazon find, mac and cheese, whatever it is. So my question for you would be, what's something you love in personal related, business tool related, whatever it is that can become part of your personal brand, and like how could you incorporate that? And it can happen more organically even than those two examples I just said. Like I don't think Danny Austin or Jenna Kutcher were necessarily like, I want everyone to associate this with me, so I'm going to talk about it. It happens more organically than that. But thinking about that as you decide like what you're sharing as a personal brand, what things do you want like associated with you, so to speak? So that's kind of a fun one that I've, again, just always loved observing of like, what things do I associate with certain people and why? What things do I think people associate with me and why? All really good questions to ask. So those are my 5 takeaways from social media influencers of lessons we can learn for our own marketing. And I definitely have more things I could keep thinking of and keep sharing. Because again, there's so much marketing takeaways we have from people outside of our industry. And I really love observing what works and what doesn't in other fields and applying it to my own, being like, okay, I'm seeing this business. I like this thing they did. Again, going back to like Whole Foods 30-day or 14-day or whatever it was, 12 days of cheese thing they did a few years ago where I got a lot of ideas from that. Like things like that, observing, enjoying, and taking marketing strategy from another influencer, just like to kind of give a random shout out at the end of this episode who I didn't reference, but who's literally probably my favorite influencer account to follow. And I'm going to make sure I get her handle right. Okay, so her account is called The Daily Tay, and her name is Taylor Wolf, but she's basically like an influencer who makes fun of influencer stuff. And so she's like a comedian in a sense is what it feels like, but her content is literally hilarious. And I feel like I could watch her reels and some of her old like IGTV videos like all day long. She's hilarious, but she's a good account to follow if you want to laugh about some of the influencer culture type stuff. Some of the ones I even shared just now of like just the funniness of like this, follow that, click this link. She's really funny and fun to follow. So there's another random shout out that I'll link to too. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this episode and let me know over on Instagram what you think. I'd love to connect with you. Send me a DM or comment on one of my latest posts to kind of pull a little influencer thing there of telling you to come comment and engage. But I would really love to know if you've had any interesting takeaways from people outside of your own industry, like what I've shared here. Maybe it's something besides the influencer industry, but something you've observed where you're like, oh yeah, that was a takeaway of something marketing someone else did that I really benefited from. And I'd also love maybe to tell me who your favorite bloggers are to follow, because I'm always looking for new people to check out. All right, that's it, you guys. I'll be back next time with another episode, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast and all the way until the end. I appreciate you being here. And hey, if you enjoyed this episode, then I want to encourage you to check out my website where you'll find tons of resources to help you grow a profitable and sustainable business. Over on elizabethmccravey.com, you'll find free workbooks to help you figure out things like the best headline for your sales page. There's a freebie with my favorite journal prompts to start your day with, a guide on website essentials for all you coaches, and so much more. And you'll find my top business tools. Yes, I literally list out all the major ones for you on my website, and there are tons of special discounts and offers for you guys to snag as you try these products and services. You'll also find the main ways to work with me. First, through my Show It website template shop that helps you DIY your way to a strategic website for your business. These website templates are easy to use, they're gorgeously designed, and they have all the strategy I'm teaching on this podcast just woven into them, and I have a feeling you'll really love them. You'll also find my course and coaching program for designers, Booked Out Designer. In this program, I teach you everything I did to build an in-demand design business so that you can create a thriving business for yourself as a brand or website designer. So if all of that interests you, go to elizabethmccravey.com. To access those tools and free downloads, head to the tools page at elizabethmccravey.com/tools. And to see the different ways to work with me, simply click over to the Ways to Work Together page. I hope you have so much fun exploring everything over there. And don't forget that you can subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening so that you never miss an episode. And leaving a rating and review for the show, sharing it with a friend, sharing it on social media are all great ways for you to support this podcast. Thanks so much, and I'll see you again next week.